Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brittany. If you're new here, I am a physician assistant. This channel focuses mainly on PA work, school stuff, and then also occasionally I'll do my vlogs. But if you guys are interested in seeing those things, definitely subscribe, come back, and continue to watch my videos. Today's video is going to be quite exciting. It's something that I've been planning to film for a while. I'm coming up on my 1-year mark as a practicing provider, and I've been taking notes on things that I wanted to kind of talk about in a video for a check-in for my 1-year mark. Also, I got a new phone recently. This is the iPhone 16, and then I got the Kate Spade tortoiseshell phone case, which I really like. So like I was saying, I've been keeping a running list of things that I want to talk about in this video, so I hope it's not too long. If you are interested in listening to what I would have wanted to kind of give advice to a new grad practitioner or provider, then continue listening, and hopefully these things are things that you can resonate with as you go about your first year of working. All right, so I actually broke it up into two parts. Things that I started realizing at like the 6-month mark, and then things that I've recently realized at the 1-year mark. So I'm going to start with the 6-month stuff and then eventually move into the later topics. The first thing that I want to talk about, it's to have thick skin, to grow thick skin as a provider. A lot of my points are going to come with anecdotes because this is essentially how I came to that conclusion. But I do remember this specific patient that I had who just did not have faith in the PA profession. And this patient ultimately wanted a second opinion from someone else, and so they went to a different institution to do so. This was the first patient that I've ever experienced with that sort of situation and them wanting to leave and to find a different provider. And so as someone who's really new, I took it really personally, and I thought that I did something wrong. But in hindsight, after I spoke to my supervising physician about it and really took the time to understand the situation, I realized that it wasn't a me problem, but more so a them problem, meaning whatever I was doing was not wrong. It just wasn't enough for the patient to feel safe. And that's fine because everyone has different preferences. You go to certain doctors because you like the way that they talk to you, or you like the way that they treat you and things like that. So medically, I didn't do anything wrong. I was very, very nice. And the patient had told me that as well, but she just wasn't comfortable seeing a PA. And that was her call to find someone else to take over her case. And I tried my best to advocate for the PA profession. You know, I told her that I'm not acting alone. I do have a supervising physician who I consult with on the daily to talk about cases of patients that I'm seeing. So it's not that you're only getting care from me. I'm running your case through someone who is a doctor, who has the experience, who has more experience than me. But that just wasn't enough for her. And so she ultimately decided to go somewhere else. And I think from that experience, I learned that I need to grow thick skin, because a lot of times patients will say things like, I don't want to see a PA. I don't think that you know enough. And it's very unfair that these patients think that way, but it is the reality. A lot of times patients will say that, and they will assume that PAs don't know a lot because we are in itself, the name, it's like a physician assistant, but we were trained and we went through clinicals, we took our boards and we passed, and that's how we got to where we were today. So it's a little bit unfair that people say that we don't know enough. So just on my end, I think that I need to learn, or at that time I needed to learn to grow thicker skin and to not take things so personally. And from that experience, I've definitely learned that, because now I am able to deal with patients who say that to me. And, I'll tell them that they have the absolute right to get someone else's opinion and that they can see my supervising physician if they'd want to and not see me. So I don't take it as personally anymore. And I definitely think that's because I learned that lesson in the very, very beginning of my career. All right. The second thing that I think is important, to know is that not all providers are nice. I definitely knew that coming into the profession. Because I was a student in the hospital, you are going to encounter people that just don't like you as a provider. And sometimes it's like they don't even like you as a person, but they don't know you. So also, again, don't take that personally. But a lot of times, a lot of providers, if you don't know them face to face, which is the case a lot of the times, you just have to reach out to these other surgeons and doctors via email or the medical record. A lot of times you don't know these people personally. So the way that they strategically go out through their workflow is very different from yours. And if you're just this random person who is injecting themselves into like someone else's workday, you're messing up their workflow, a lot of times they can be annoyed at you, and that will come off with some sort of hostility or just like rudeness in a way that, it should not be allowed, but that's what happens. So again, don't take everything so personally, and just know that not everyone is going to be super, super nice. Someone can also be having a bad day. So if they snap at you, don't take it personally. That's the bottom line. Also, some people just don't like collaborating with others. Like my doctor loves collaborating and working with me and discussing things. Some people just like to work on their own, and that's totally your preference. So when you start out at a new job, definitely try to figure out who likes to work with people and who likes to work on their own. All right, the next thing that's important to know is that medicine is a business. I work in a ambulatory site. So a lot of the times, although I'm part of an institution, like a hospital institution, the ambulatory site stands alone, meaning that we have to generate our own revenue and income and the people that we see. A lot of times, a lot of the things that we do, we have to take into consideration, like, will this be beneficial for the hospital and the ambulatory site? Because a lot of times if we end up making decisions that lose money, we will lose funding, and eventually that means that we might not have a job. And so a lot of the things that we do in medicine regarding ordering labs or ordering certain tests and procedures and scans and stuff like that, we have to, in the back of our mind, think about, is this financially smart, not only for the patient, but for the institution? And the reason why is because medicine is business. And that was just like something that was so strange to me, because obviously I went into the medical profession to help people, to give the best care to people who could not afford it. And so just like thinking about things on the other spectrum was so strange to me. But I definitely understand why, is because medicine is business. And it's so sad to say that, but that's the truth, especially in the United States. All right, next is needing to keep up with your own medical knowledge. I think it was like a really big learning curve for me, because in school we're handed material, like, this is your textbook, these are your PowerPoints, you need to know these things. As a provider, you see things so differently every day. Like now I'm still learning about new diseases that I've never even heard about in school. And the only way that I can learn about them is by reading up on them, looking up journal articles, looking online, asking people around me, and kind of increasing my knowledge on my own, which is so different from being in school. And that's a transition from being a student to a provider, being in school and now being out of school. That was a really big learning curve for me. So I think as a new provider, just be open to always learning and seeking new medical knowledge wherever you go, whether that's through conferences, journal articles, reading just like up to date or asking people. And then the last point for my 6-month part of this video check-in is dealing with grief as a provider. This year, I had a patient that passed away while they were still under my care. Obviously, I've seen people pass away when I was a student, but it's different when you're that person's provider. I think you take it a little bit more personally, and for me specifically, I internalized it a lot. I ran through like all of his notes, tried to understand what happened. Did I do something wrong? Was there something I could have done to kind of prevent the death? And a lot of times it's very hard because you know, like there's so many things that could have gone wrong, and it makes it even harder as an ambulatory provider when you don't see this person all the time. So when you're in the hospital, the patient's there in their room, they're in their bed, you see them every day, you round on them. As an ambulatory provider, you see them probably once or twice a month, maybe every couple of weeks or so. And then also, if they can't come into the clinic, you're doing telehealth visits. I think it's a good thing that providers kind of backtrack and try to understand what happened with the situation, why the patient passed away and things like that. But also, as a provider, I think it's important to reach out if you need to talk to people. In the hospital, there are things called Code Lavender for providers that need some sort of emotional support after something happened to their patient. But I think it's just important for providers to kind of know that this is something that is bound to happen once in your career, and it's okay to take time off to kind of process everything and to talk to people about it. If you need to talk to your colleagues or your supervisor, or just, you know, process on your own, it's definitely normal to want to take time off to kind of process everything. I think that was just like a really big milestone in my career because I did not experience that as a provider. I've seen it as a student, but it's different when you're a student because there's that separation. Like, you're not their sole provider. And so you are not as attached, if that makes any sense. Now I'm going to move on to the things that I want to talk about in the 1-year mark. The first thing is, it's okay not to know everything. And I think it's so important for new providers to know this and to understand this, because medicine is a field that is continuously changing. You have new procedures every day, new labs that come out every day, new ways to diagnose things every day, new diseases that are being discovered. And there's no way that you will always know everything. So it's okay to look things up. It's okay to ask for help if you don't know. It's okay to ask questions about things that you don't understand, even though you've learned about it in school. A lot of times you will learn things in school but not put them into practice, so they don't really make sense to you until you are treating patients. So I think that it's important to just understand that you're not going to know everything. It's okay to look things up and to learn as you go. Because in the beginning, I put so much pressure on myself to kind of understand everything, to know everything before I walked into the room. It's 100% okay to walk in and say, there's not that much data on this, but I will look into it for you. And I will reach out to other people who are more specialized. I will refer you to providers that know more about this. All right, so what's important to take away from that is what matters is that you are trying to learn. And so if you don't know something, you look it up, you understand it, and then you remember it for the next time. And that's how you learn. It's just a continuous process of learning. The next thing is every patient is very different. You can have 2 patients with the same disease state, and the way that they react to the medication and the treatment plans are going to be so different. One person is going to have side effects from one medication, the other patient is not. One person is going to take better care of their wound and ultimately heal faster. The other is not. So I think it's important to kind of know a general baseline of how you should be treating your patients, like X, Y, and Z. If you have osteomyelitis, you want to do 6 weeks of antibiotics, good wound care, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of the times it's also situational, because the patient is also part of their treatment plan. You provide half, but they also have to be on the same page as you and be on board with whatever you are trying to fix. If things are not going your way, for some reason, just know that you are half of the equation, but the patient also has to show up for themselves. And so if they aren't, that is the most you can do. And then along the same lines, because every patient is different, just know that you don't want to simplify things to a T. So don't have a checklist of things for a certain diagnosis or disease, because everyone's different. So if someone needs extra testing for some certain reason, you do that testing for that person. If they don't need it, you don't need to do it. So again, everything is situational because every patient is different. And you don't want to simplify too much, because it will make you into a robot. You won't think anymore. And essentially you will just do things because in your head you have a checklist to fill out. But a lot of the times it's not needed. And then the last thing that I want to talk about as a provider is it's so important to take PTO. Personal time off is something that I think a lot of people don't really understand. When you start working, you are given PTO, and what that is days off that you can take off and still be paid. So if you don't take them, I mean, you don't lose the money because you get paid since you're working, but you could be taking time off and still be getting paid, if that makes sense. So why wouldn't you do that, you know? I just think it's so important for a provider to take PTO, because that's your time to recuperate and to kind of reset yourself after your shifts, after a long period of time of working. And our job is taxing. You are dealing with a lot during your work time. It's so important to take care of your mental and physical health so that you can be the best provider for your patient. Like, if you're not taking care of yourself, there's no way you could take care of other people if you're not feeling 100%. So I think it's so important just to keep reiterating that PTO is your best friend. You should use it if you're given those days, and make sure that you're using all of them every year, because a lot of places don't let you roll over. Some places do, some places don't. So just know the policy where you're working, whether or not the days roll over, because if they don't, then you lose them and then you can't get them back. So that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you guys found that interesting to some extent. If you did, give it a thumbs up. My throat is so dry now. My allergies have been bothering me, so I'm going to go, but I will see you guys in the next video, hopefully. And I don't know, maybe it'll be a vlog, maybe it'll be a sit down video. Let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.